Hey guys, and welcome to episode number 105 of Diehlman at Halftime, the NBA podcast that tops all others. I'm your host, Larry Diehlman, joined by my co host, Chris DiPietro. If you're joining us for the first time, it's great to have you, and if you've been a regular listener, welcome back. We have a lot to cover today and not a lot of time to do it. We'll look at a general overview of the NBA this week and then discuss some important topics across the association. Let's get to our content for the week. With this being near the end of the NBA season, let's just jump right into the NBA Finals and what a series this has been so far. Between the Spurs and the Knicks have a 2-0 lead in the opener of the finals, and the Knicks stole home court advantage from the Spurs both games in San Antonio, and they have a real chance for getting a sweep at Madison Square Garden. Both games were down to the wire at one point or another. Both games, believe it or not, the Knicks scored 105 points. Game one, it was a 105-95 win for the Knicks. Jalen Brunson took over despite going out with an early injury. There were questions, would he come back or would he be doing his thing? And he put all that to bed. Josh Hart, I noticed, was collecting rebounds like Dennis Rodman. He really didn't score, but he was just a pain in the Spurs' ass trying to get those rebounds and be a pest. The Spurs blew a 14-point lead in game one, and Victor Wembanyama with a costly turnover at the end of the game, dribbling the ball off his foot unintentionally, obviously, and the Knicks ran away with that one. Game two, oh my, 105-104 was the final, a slim one. The Spurs, once again, a 12-point lead this time evaporated from their grasp. Wembanyama had a better outing than game one, but he had another costly turnover at the end of the game, which you could argue as miscommunication as well. Dylan Harper has been hot in this series off the bench. He's proven to be a thorn for the Knicks. Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns took over in game two. Karl Anthony Towns was very aggressive, which is always great to see. But the thing that sealed the game, the Spurs had a fast break opportunity. Victor Wembanyama got the ball. He was trying to pass it to Stephon Castle, who was just ahead of him, and Stephon turned his back too early. Wemby threw the ball, so either Wemby didn't expect Steph to turn around or Steph just wasn't paying attention. A miscommunication, the Knicks got the ball, and that was all she wrote. So, Chris, a lot of things going on. This has been a great series. The Spurs youth, I think, is starting to show a little bit as opposed to their last series with the Thunder, despite them winning the championship last year. And game three is already tomorrow, Monday, June 8th, 8:30 at New York. The next two games at Madison Square Garden, as I mentioned a few moments ago. And what's going to be interesting, the Knicks watch parties are going to be canceled for at least game three because President Donald Trump will be in attendance for game three. A lot of heightened security, Secret Service will be swarming that building, but it is going to be absolute madness.
Yeah, just another example of our president making things about himself. But anyway, NBA Finals, Knicks Spurs. It's been I don't think people were expecting this sort of start to the series. Well, first of all, I think there were a lot of people that thought San Antonio would get the Knicks out of there just like that. And we both thought and many other people thought that the Knicks again had a much better chance than people were giving them credit for in this series. And it's showing. The Knicks have won 13 straight games in this playoffs. That is like almost unprecedented. You never see, runs like that like hardly ever. I don't I'm not even sure that might be a record, 13 straight playoff wins. Like it's unbelievable. But yeah, I mean New York's controlled the series so far and like you said, I think San Antonio's see I don't know because I really don't want to say it's because of the youth or because of the inexperience. They are really just it's been just a couple of boneheaded plays that have really decided these games. And it's so crazy how, no more than a week or two ago, we were, saying Wemby was on top of the world, and now at NBA Finals, he has two absolutely gut-wrenching turnovers to basically cost each respective game. And he's really taking it hard. in the tunnel after game one, we saw him visibly upset, almost kind of talking to himself. And then after game two in the tunnel, he literally dropped to his knees and started sobbing. So I think that's cool to see from like a fan perspective because just to have a superstar that cares so much is cool. But it's wild. We never see a player take this to this magnitude. And it's gonna be really fascinating to see how Wemby and the Spurs shake back in game three on the road, Madison Square Garden. It's gonna be an unbelievable environment in there. But I really have no doubt in Wemby. I still have kind of unwavering faith in him and the San Antonio Spurs. I mean, they've been in both of these games. The Knicks have played really good basketball these last two games. And I think it's really interesting how well the Knicks have performed despite Jalen Brunson's shooting totals. I mean, it feels like every game he's shooting like 9 for 28, but you're watching the game and it doesn't even feel like that. He may be the most efficient, game-changing, 10 for 30 you'll ever see in a box score. Like it just doesn't matter. It's you get to the fourth quarter and he starts turning up. That at the end of game one, I mean that was unbelievable. I don't think we've seen a small guard dominate like he has, besides maybe arguably Steph Curry, but Steph Curry's taller than him. Like this might be the most dominant stretch we've seen from a 6'2" and under player ever. I mean, it is unbelievable what he's doing right now, despite kind of the not so efficient shooting numbers. He has just been ice cold in this series, and he has been all playoffs. And I'm really glad that he's starting to kind of earn his respect because admittedly, it even took me a little bit to get there with Jalen Brunson, but he just over and over and over keeps showing up in the clutch, and he's just an unbelievable clutch player. I mean, one of, if not the best in the league. And one of, if not the best we've seen in a long time. It's unbelievable what he does down the stretch. Karl Anthony Towns, we have to talk about him. He has been tremendous this playoff run as well, and tremendous in these finals. He is playing the best basketball of his career, no doubt. It's bringing up a lot of conversations going back to his trade from Minnesota for Julius Randle. And so that's been a hot topic lately, just with how well Karl Anthony Towns has performed. He is really, I think he's realizing his potential right now. He's been a tremendous passer. He's been a willing rebounder, which has been a bit shaky from him in the past. And he's just shooting really efficiently right now. He's playing aggressive. He's playing controlled. This is the dream Karl Anthony Towns. Like this is what we envisioned of him, and this is what we've seen a lot of from him, but maybe not as consistently as we've seen in this playoff run. So he's been terrific. I mean, honestly, and everyone surrounding those two on the Knicks, Anunoby, Mikal Bridges has really turned it up as of late. Josh Hart, while putting up zero in game two, and obviously not being a primary scoring option on the team, has continued to be Josh Hart, the unbelievable rebounder. We all know Landry Shamet has been huge. He has been fearless for them. The Knicks are, like we said, like we've been saying, they're playing the best basketball of their season and the best basketball of this era of Knicks basketball. But despite that, San Antonio again is just a couple brutal turnovers away from, having this be a 1-1 series, maybe even a 2-0 series in San Antonio's direction. So yeah, I mean, this series has lived up to the hype for sure. It has been such a fun series to watch. The atmosphere in San Antonio has been unbelievable. We've gotten great games, we've gotten great performances, we've gotten kind of all-time moments. I think Jalen Brunson down the stretch of game one will be remembered. I think Wemby's turnovers will be remembered for a while. And I just spoke about the atmosphere in San Antonio, and man, it might be tenfold in Madison Square Garden for the NBA Finals up 2-0. It's going to be unbelievable. And the Knicks have a real chance to put this away quickly, which is just crazy. And I don't think what many people were expecting here. Knicks going back to MSG up 2-0.
It'd be really crazy if the Spurs repay the Knicks and tie the series 2-2 so they get the home court back. They have
They
to win
very well could.
they have to win game 3 because 3-0 is the dagger. No team has ever come back 3-0 in a playoff series in the NBA at least. They need to win. If they win tomorrow, they should be okay for now. Going back to your point with the win streak the Knicks have been on, it is second all time. 13 in a row is second all time to the Kevin Durant Warriors in 2017. They won 15 straight. They swept the first 3 rounds, won the 3 games in the finals. LeBron and the Cavs won game four, and then the Warriors said, yeah, that's enough for you. That was a 16-1 run for the Warriors, and probably not going to be topped. If the Knicks can't do it, then I don't know really who can. What made game one pretty cool, Chris came over to the crib and we watched it together so we could compare notes and watch Jalen Brunson destroy the clutch. And what really, another quote that kind of sums up what people are thinking, Becky Hammond, a WNBA figure, said a while back that small guards really can't be like a 1A on a championship team. And I think people have been kind of going back on her for that. And I think she's been standing on business and saying, like, well, I guess until they actually do it, and, I guess they need help around them. So, kind of an interesting point to
And that's
bring
a fair
up.
point because, I mean, the Knicks have constructed a monster around Brunson. I mean, just unbelievable rebounders, unbelievable length, with Cat and Anobi, Hart, Bridges. So they really have constructed the perfect roster, I think, for a small guard who's so ball dominant like Jalen Brunson. But that's not at all to take away from what Jalen Brunson's doing. He's maybe been the best player of these playoffs.
I had Knicks in six. Chris has Spurs in seven. One of us might be right, but in the games department might be a little questionable. So we'll see how that turns out. Game three.
You're definitely sitting a bit better than I am right
You
now.
got you got the you got the game of the week right this last one. So
I did. I'll take it. I'll hang
yes.
my hat on something.
So we'll see as our brackets are destroyed, and we'll see how game three pans out in New York. This episode is entitled The Alien and the Garden. So, who's raising eyebrows at the moment?
Okay, so in spirit of the NBA Finals and a relatively quiet news week out of the NBA because most of the headlines are occupied by the NBA championship. Some would argue that's a big deal. We decided to come up with a draft of the most impressive NBA rings in history, single player. So we're talking LeBron James's 2016 finals run, playoff run, obviously at the big 3-1 comeback against Golden State. We're talking individual playoff long performances that resulted in a championship. Again, it's a slow news week, and the finals got us pondering on some of the most impressive rings in NBA history. Because honestly, if Jalen Brunson pulls this off, he could crack this draft. Honestly, just knowing the reputation and of the small guard, and him beating a player who's going to go down as one of the best ever. If the Knicks are to pull this off, he's going to have to be in this discussion, I think. So yeah, Larry and I are going to draft our most impressive playoff runs, our most impressive rings. So Larry, if you would like to get us kicked off here, I will give you the honor of the number one selection in our all-time title run draft. Who's going to be the first pick? I have a feeling I know who it's going to be.
Why, thank you, kind sir, for giving me the number one pick. With the first pick in the most impressive rings draft, I am selecting Dirk Nowitzki, 2011.
Wow. Okay.
Dirk Nowitzki and the Dallas Mavericks back in the 2010-11 season, considered one of the purest finals runs in NBA history, and you could probably argue sports history as well. Dirk Nowitzki had gone many years without a ring, and he never really had like a super team around him. He had a lot of good supporting players, but I don't think if you compare it to super teams in like today's era or even back in the day, you could really be like, wow, that's a super team right there. So Dirk was kind of getting to that point. All right, it's time to get a ring. Dirk Nowitzki beat the Portland Trailblazers, swept Kobe Bryant's Lakers. Gentlemen swept the Baby Thunder. That's when Russell Westbrook, James Harden, and Kevin Durant were a thing. And they defeated the Heat super team in its first season, also known as the Heatles. That was just one playoff run. LeBron James in the 2010 offseason, like before the 10-11 actual season, LeBron James left the Cleveland Cavaliers to team up with Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade on the Miami Heat, and he became the NBA villain overnight. Everybody hated him. Cavs fans were burning jerseys. He was booed relentlessly when he went back to Cleveland when he made his return as a visitor, and he just became the villain overnight. And the Heat, they made the finals all 4 years that LeBron was in South Beach. First year, they go to the finals, and Dirk Nowitzki pulls off one of the greatest upsets ever. And LeBron has been clowned for his entire career of his 2011 finals run. I think he had like 8 points in a finals game, which is not going to get it done considering that was when he was in his prime. Dirk Nowitzki, unfortunately, that was his only title win in his epic 21-year career with the Mavericks, but definitely one of the greatest runs of all time. And just to give you some stats here, Dirk averaged 27.7 points and 8.1 rebounds per game that postseason, Chris, on nearly 50-40-90 shooting, 48.5% from the field, 46 from three, 94.1% from the free throw line, arguably cementing Dirk as a Hall of Famer in NBA history. 50-40-90 shooting, nearly 27 points per game, getting rid of Kobe Bryant, Kevin Durant, and the Heatles in one postseason. Absolutely disgusting and worthy of the top pick in my draft.
I think he's worthy. I was expecting him to be on my team because Larry, you were just so kind to gift me with the second pick in our all-time title run draft, LeBron's legendary 2016 title run.
Fair.
He averaged 26 points, 10 rebounds, and 8 assists in the playoffs, and obviously the headliner of this playoff run, the huge first in history 3-1 comeback in the NBA Finals against a legendary Warriors team. LeBron had 41 points in game five and game six. And then he had 27 points, 11 rebounds, 11 assists in game seven to close it out on the road. And on top of that, one of the greatest moments, one of the best plays in NBA history, the block over Andre Iguodala, pinning his layup off the backboard late in the fourth quarter, blocked by James. An iconic play.
There might be one better now. What about Luke Cornett blocking Isaiah Hartenstein in the Western Conference
Or,
Finals?
I mean, that's a great point. Blocked by Cornet, I mean, is neck and neck with blocked by James.
Of course, of course.
But I mean, arguably the most iconic moment in the career of arguably the greatest player of all time. I think no doubt the block is the best play of his career. Even though he has so many, game winners and incredible performances, I think that block was just on a different level. And yeah, it was just an electric playoff run. And with maybe the most impressive feat in NBA Finals history to cap it off. So I'm going to take LeBron's 2016 title run with the second pick. And that leaves me with two options I'm looking at here with my third pick. I think I'm going to go with the third pick in our title run draft. I'm going to take Hakeem Olajuwon in 1995.
Ooh.
He averaged 33 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, and 3 blocks in that playoffs. Round one, where the series was best of five, he had a 2-1 comeback, won 3-2 in that series. Then in round two, moved to a best of seven series, which it would continue to be for the rest of the playoffs. Came back down 3-1 in round two. In the Western Conference Finals, he beat the MVP David Robinson that year, and then he swept Shaq in the finals. So just an unbelievably dominant playoff run by the numbers, and just looking at the caliber of opponents he beat and the comebacks the Rockets had that year. I mean 33, 10, 5, and 3. That is unbelievable. And given who he was doing that against, David Robinson and Shaq in the last two rounds of the playoffs, and pulling off those very unfavorable early run deficits in the series. Again, came back down 2-1, came back down 3-1 the following round. I wasn't all too familiar with this run as I was born in 2004. So Hakeem's ring had probably gathered a bit of dust on it by the time I was even born. But yeah, I'm gonna take him with the third pick in this draft and my second pick.
Yeah, it was probably getting dust. I was a 2000 baby. So, or we could, Chris, we could be like LeBron when he's predicting the future. Like, when we came out of our our mother's wombs, we just knew Hakeem Olajuwon just made these runs.
Yeah, we just knew. We just knew he was gonna go crazy in 1995. Just had
Uh,
a feeling.
I didn't know you had that in your bag over there with Hakeem in the 95
I got another
finals.
throwback I'm looking at right here,
Okay,
and
okay.
I'm hoping you don't take him because he's very high up on my list. I almost took him. But
Interestingly, with the Rockets getting the repeat in the mid 90s, those were the 2 years Michael Jordan that was his first retirement, or if you want to go in the conspiracies of his gambling suspension, but the Rockets, won those middle 2 years. So good points from Chris taking LeBron and Hakeem for those picks in the middle of our draft. And then for my second pick and the fourth pick in our draft, got some good ones here. I'm going to go with Kawhi Leonard in 2019 with the Toronto Raptors. Kawhi was traded from the San Antonio Spurs to the Raptors prior to the 2018-19 season, and they went on one of the more legendary runs in the history of the NBA in Kawhi's lone season in the North. The legendary buzzer beating, series clinching shot versus the 76ers sent the Raptors to the Eastern Conference Finals, the quadruple doink, which we do not like to talk about on this podcast.
nope.
And as we mentioned with Josh Reynolds a few weeks ago, Kawhi's Raptors also in the finals took down the injured yet strong Kevin Durant Warriors to end Golden State's 3 year reign of terror with Kevin Durant. And that's kind of when it all fell apart. The Warriors, they won in 2017, 2018. They probably would have won for the three-peat in 2019, but Kevin Durant's Achilles exploded. Klay Thompson, his ACL exploded, and they were running on fumes. Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and the rest of the Warriors, Andre Iguodala, like there was only so much they could do. Kawhi was just on a absolute heater that postseason. And then in the offseason, despite giving the Raptors their first NBA championship, Kawhi would peace out and he dipped for the LA Clippers that summer. There were rumors he was maybe going to stay with the Raptors. Maybe he was going to go with LeBron to the Lakers. And he said, I'm going to the Clippers. He got Paul George, the Shea Gilgeous-Alexander swap, and we've talked about that many times. The rest is history on that part. So maybe Kawhi is responsible for the Thunder. But despite the 1 year in Toronto, Kawhi Leonard with an awesome run, you could probably argue they had a chance to go back to back or put up a hell of a fight in the 2020 finals, but we will never know. Kawhi is my second pick. And then for my third pick, I know I'm going a little more modern here. I know I've been taking the old picks in our recent
No, don't
drafts.
take him. Don't
So
take him.
I'm
Oh
going to
my.
go LeBron and the bubble ring
Yeah,
for
that's cool
my
actually. Go
for
ahead.
my third. Oh crap, I didn't take yours. So I'll go LeBron and the Lakers in the 2020 bubble. The Lakers had traded for Anthony Davis prior to the 2019-20 season. If you remember, this was the COVID year and the shortened NBA season. COVID-19 forced the NBA to halt the season, and then they resumed in the Walt Disney World bubble in the wide world of sports. They resumed the season in the summer. It was weird because the finals were like in October and like the playoffs started in August, so it was kind of weird with that. The Lakers, gentlemen swept, so 5 games, every series except for the finals against the Heat, which went to 6. Jimmy Butler, that was one of his great runs, but it was no match for LeBron. No one had home court advantage in these playoffs because of the bubble. They were all in Florida, they were all in Walt Disney World. No one had home court advantage. Remember, there were no fans. You really couldn't bring many family members in. If you like broke the rules in any shape or form, I forget who it was, like somebody brought like a girlfriend in or I don't know, a hooker or I don't know what into the room and they like booted them out of the bubble. They had really strict rules because this was when there was no vaccine. Nobody knew what the hell COVID was. They didn't want to get anybody else sick. So you got booted. You had to quarantine for like 10 days in your room. It was insanity. So nobody had home court advantage, but everyone had a few months of rest before the season and the playoffs resumed. Because when you get to the playoffs, like the Spurs and the Knicks right now, they are running on fumes. Those players are looking forward to vacation. They want the ring, but they're tired. In the bubble, everybody was well rested. Everybody had a game plan. There were no fans. They had like the digital fans on the screen and stuff. And like you saw in ballparks, they had like the cardboard cutouts, but no one had home court advantage. Everyone had rest. And depending on what you may think, well, this was a Mickey Mouse ring, a Disney and whatever you want to call it, whether it was a real ring or not, or put an asterisk next to it, you have to consider it one of the greater ones just because of the circumstances and how COVID really affected the world at the time. And you think about it too, back in 2020, I think the Lakers were kind of destined to win anyway because that was the year that Kobe Bryant tragically perished in a helicopter crash. So I think that was just kind of meant to be. So I will put LeBron's 2020 ring as my final selection.
That's a fair pick. That wasn't on my list, but I also am definitely not of the camp of people that think that was some like unimpressive championship. I mean, th those were really like circumstances we will never see probably ever again for a group of contending teams. What they had to deal with. And it was weird. It was like nothing we've ever seen. It's like nothing we will ever probably see again. And, I did think it was hard for some players to adjust. And, LeBron and the Lakers got it done. And, people try and paint it out as like, oh, they were just playing in a gym. It didn't feel like there were any stakes or anything. Like, nah, I don't buy into that. I mean, it was just so weird and unique, and everyone had to adjust. And I mean, I think you could argue it the opposite way, saying that that might even be harder than a regular championship run in regular circumstances, with no global pandemic happening. But yeah, it's a solid pick, but I am between a finals run from 2003 and from 2021. And I think I'm going to go with Giannis Antetokounmpo's 2021 title run.
We're just going in order, aren't we? 19, 20, 21.
I mean, we saw some legendary runs from those years for sure. They swept the Heat round one, Giannis and the Bucks. They had a 2-0 comeback the following round against the Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, James Harden, Brooklyn Nets team. Giannis hurt his knee in the conference finals against Atlanta, but the Bucks are able to pull it off. And they match up in the NBA finals against the Phoenix Suns. The Suns quickly go up 2-0, and then, Giannis just locked in. He averaged 35 points, 13 rebounds, 5 assists in those finals, and capped it off with arguably the best lob finish in NBA history. Earlier, I picked a title run that included probably the best block in NBA history. And now here with Giannis in 2021, I am picking a run that included what I think is probably the best lob finish in NBA history. Game six, I mean, it looked like he took off from the 3-point line and threw it down and won to seal the game. Just an unbelievable play, an iconic play, probably the most iconic play of Giannis's career, as was LeBron's block was of his career. Not only did he have that unreal finish in that game six, he also put up 50 points, 14 rebounds, and 5 assists. I believe he's the only player since 2000 to have multiple 40-point 10 rebound games in a finals. He was just dominant. And again, he stepped up down 2-0 against a super team on paper in that Brooklyn Nets season with KD, Kyrie, and Harden. And then in the finals, down 2-0 yet again, was able to really turn it up. Was just unbelievable for the remainder of that series. And, I really like Giannis, and I think it's awesome that, he got his shine and he stepped up in the biggest way possible, with having such a dominant playoff run. And I think that will be kind of the hallmark year of his career. But I was really between him and Tim Duncan in 2003. Duncan was the regular season and the finals MVP that year. He carried an aging David Robinson and a kind of pre-prime version of Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili. They had a pretty swift run. I don't think any game went to seven. He averaged 25, 15, 5, and 3 blocks in the playoffs. And then in game six against the New Jersey Nets, led by Jason Kidd, Duncan had 21 points, 20 rebounds, 10 assists, and 8 blocks in that game six to win the championship. So honestly, pretty comparable runs from Duncan and Giannis, but I'm gonna give the slight edge to Giannis here. Maybe a bit of recency bias, but man, that lob, that dunk will live in my head forever. That's one of my favorite plays of all time. It was just unbelievable. So I'm gonna take Giannis with my third pick, but Tim Duncan 2003. We're happy to have you come off our bench here.
All right, so Tim Duncan is your honorable mention, I would assume.
You could say that, yeah.
All right, well, I'm going to counter that with my own honorable mention to wrap up our greatest rings of all time draft. Although, out of all these picks that we've said, this is the only one in a losing effort, and that is Tyrese Halliburton in the 2025 finals just last year.
Oh, listen, I'm gonna have to consult the commissioner about this because I don't know if we can take a title run that did not include a title.
All right,
Larry, you are really bending the rules here, but it's an honorable mention. I'll let it fly. But listen, I mean, you might get a $500,000 fine for this, but go ahead, plead your case.
the Pacers went on one of the more insane championship runs of all time. They gentlemen swept the Bucks and the Cavs. Tyrese Halliburton had a game winner or buzzer beater or whatever in every round of the playoffs. He pulled off the iconic Reggie Miller choke symbol at Madison Square Garden at the buzzer. He thought it was for the win, but after they reviewed it, his foot was on the 3-point line, so they went to overtime. They did win that game, so it's not like he did it in a defeat. That would have been embarrassing. He would have been memed for that for sure. And then they took the Thunder to 7 games. Now, no one thought the Thunder were going to get pushed that far. The Pacers came out of nowhere last year. Game 7 against Oklahoma City will forever be one of the greatest what ifs just because Tyrese Halliburton started that game off so well. He hit 3 of 4 shots from three, and then it happened. The injury, his Achilles exploded, and that was the end of Tyrese Halliburton. The Thunder took over the rest of the way, and we will forever be wondering, does Oklahoma City even have a ring right now? Had Tyrese Halliburton stayed in the game, obviously healthy, not like, oh, you have a torn Achilles, get back out there, champ. Like, no, I don't think
Yeah,
they're that. They're that.
rolling around on the floor,
They're not.
he somehow pulls it off, drops 45 points.
Yeah, I don't think Rick Carlisle is that heartless to be like, get out there, champ. Like, just put a band-aid on it. So or just
Uh,
or just or wear like an ice pack on that leg. It's just it was one of those things where after that moment, the Thunder probably figured, yeah, this is our championship. But you have to
Hey,
just think,
that was still a game until really the fourth quarter. TJ McConnell really started to turn up in that third quarter. We thought we might have had ourselves a game, but
of
yeah.
course, another Sixers player that thrives on other teams, but we won't go there.
Yeah,
And
we could make this an 8 hour podcast about all them.
the Pacers, they had that 1 year last year, and then this year they had no chance this year. They were injured prone. They made some trades. Next year, we hope to see them back in the fold of the Eastern Conference. Last year it was just unreal, and the Thunder took that. But Tyrese Halliburton in a losing effort is going to be my honorable mention. And finally, let's get to our game of the week. Oh, wait a second. There is no game of the week, as I said last week, given that we are in the NBA Finals. And at this point, there's really not a point for game of the week because we know what it is. So these last few episodes, we will be doing things in lieu of game of the week. For this episode, we will be doing a game of the week predictions review, as we've done every year. So what this section includes, I crunched the numbers, Chris. I did the math painstakingly by hand because I am psychotic. I went back and crunched the numbers, all 33 game of the week predictions for the 25-26 season, and got some interesting data.
Can't
Now,
wait. Let's
now
hear it.
how did we get to this 33, even though today's episode is number 34? There were no games of the week for our 5 special edition episodes. So, for example, our power rankings, predictions, our playoff bracket, and the All-Star weekend trade deadline, we did not do games of the week for them. We did 5-in-1 for our Christmas slate. We did all 5 Christmas Day games in that episode. And then there was a week later in the season, if you remember, we did both Timberwolves and Cavaliers weekend series, I'm going to call it. We did both of those games in the same episode because they were in the same weekend. So I figured, why not? So that's how we got our 33. Now, I broke it down into different sections here. Closest prediction, average margin of victory for predictions versus the actual result, and how many Chris and I got correct and incorrect, or if you just want to call it a ratio. I think they're kind of obvious with what they mean. The margin of victory thing, I went back and tallied all of the predictions. So, for example, for a game, if I said the Sixers were going to win by 7 points and Chris said they were going to win by 9 points, I tallied all those up, took the average, and that was like how many points we thought the team would win by in that particular game, and then the actual, like how many points, and tallied them all up. So we're going to start with the average margin of victory for the predictions versus the actual, and we'll make our way to the more interesting results. For me, my average margin of victory prediction was 7.3 points per game. On average, I was thinking the team would win by about 7 points. For Chris, 7.8. So he was a little bit
Okay.
higher.
Okay. That checks out, I suppose.
However, Chris was closer to the actual result, even though neither one of us was relatively close anyway. The actual 12.2 points per game. And when
Wow.
I was crunching the numbers, there were quite a few blowouts, a couple 40 burgers. And yeah, it kind of got ugly. Like the Spurs Sixers, when they did that throwback
Oh
game, that
man.
was a 40
Yeah.
point blowout.
Yeah, like I turned that game off in the first quarter.
There
Man,
was
that
like
was
a
insufferable.
there was like a Clippers game somewhere. It was like a 40-point blowout.
Well,
So that's
Larry, it's like most of our game of the weeks are, well, they're mostly regular season games, and they're between two teams we usually thought were pretty good. And when you go into it with that mindset, you're predicting a close game because most of the game of the weeks were between, two pretty solid teams. But, it's hard to, if you have I don't know, like you mentioned earlier, like if you have a Timberwolves Cavs game of the week, it's like, those are two good teams. Like you're not going to predict a blowout. So I'm not surprised to see that our margin of victory was lower than the actual average margin of victory for our game of the weeks. But, I'm not surprised I took the crown in this metric. And, you might as well just hand the rest of the crowns right over to me. So, yeah, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Just read them off.
So that was the average margin of victory predictions versus the actual. Next, we will go to closest prediction. Now, I took this
Ooh,
into
okay.
account. I took this into account for both of us, whether it was we almost got the score correct. No one did, by the way. We got the score nearly
We didn't have a
correct.
single score correct the whole season.
No. And
Dang.
I have in 3 seasons I have not either, so don't fret. Either the score was right or the same margin. So like we each predicted, oh, we thought they win by 6 points, and the team actually won by 6 points, or whatever. So I went back and I looked at the games that I thought were relatively close. Surprisingly, you had more games that were really close. I had one that was almost on the money. I gave you two for closest, and I gave myself one. So starting with me, my closest was our game of the week back on March 14th, the Orlando Magic and the Miami Heat. My prediction for that one was Magic 117, 113. The actual Magic 121, 117. Nearly the right numbers. Each were a 4 point spread. Then going over to David Christian DiPietro
That's me.
with a tie of what I thought was insanely close. Hornets Rockets on February 5th. Chris's prediction for this game was Rockets 107-99. The actual Hornets 109-99. Nearly the correct score, wrong team.
Wrong
I had to
team.
put that in there. His second one, Nuggets Spurs, April 12th, right before the playoffs started. Prediction Spurs 128, 120. Actual Nuggets 128, 118. Again, wrong team, off by 2 points.
Okay, I got the margins pretty close at least. I'll take it.
I will throw in an honorable mention as well. Thunder Spurs, game 5 of the Western Conference Finals, which was just a few episodes ago. Now, we weren't relatively close to the actual score, but Chris and I nearly had identical predictions that we did not collaborate on. My prediction was Thunder 109, 104. Chris's was Thunder 109, 103. The actual Thunder 127, 114. So neither one of us was close, but the fact we were almost on target was crazy.
Yeah, we were on the same wavelength for sure.
Chris, any thoughts on the prediction section?
I'm honestly shocked. I'm honestly shocked I didn't get any exactly correct scores. I'm not exactly shocked that you didn't and that you haven't in 3 seasons.
Wow.
So I just had to get that off my chest. And I beat you in the closeness quantity. Just another crown for me in our game of the week wrap up. So yeah, just that doesn't shock me whatsoever, honestly. But yeah, I'm floored I didn't get one exactly correct. I was expecting, before the season, if we were gonna have 30 game of the weeks, I would have maybe 15 on the money, exact team and score. Unfortunately, did not meet my standard, but you live and you learn. So, shout out the Hornets and Konka Nipples and all of them for proving me wrong.
I had one last year in season two that I was almost on the money. It was
Closer
Grizz
than any of ours.
it was Grizzlies Suns. I got the team right. I nearly had the right score. I was off by 2 points. And that really just like
I
so
was probably closer than any of ours this season, it sounds like.
and lastly, probably the section we've all been waiting for. How many we actually got correct versus incorrect? Now, as I mentioned a few moments ago, there were 33 possible choices.
A nice odd number, so we
Yeah.
will have a winner.
Chris has been happy to see that he's racking up these crowns.
So I'm getting my third, right? Of
Chris
course.
has been racking up these crowns, but he is not going for the sweet boy because I
Ah,
got this one. Let's go.
how close was it? How close was it? It had to have been like 17-16 or something.
Chris had 14 correct to
Ah,
9
God dang it.
14 correct to 19 incorrect for an average of 42.4%. And then I came away on top here with 17 correct and 16
Damn.
incorrect for an average of 51.5%. And what
Damn, all
makes this
right.
even sweeter was the comeback that I had. I think like the first 5 weeks in a row,
I was
I got it
crushing
wrong.
you.
I got like five in a row wrong, and then I heated up
Dang.
at the
I
end.
fumbled. I fumbled.
So Chris got the gentleman's sweep, and I got this one right. There were a lot of them where he was getting them right, and even this last game of the week that we said earlier with the Spurs and Knicks, where I said Spurs get game one, but the Knicks get the series, and he said Knicks game one, but the Spurs get the series. He got that one correct as well.
We'll probably both be wrong in totality.
Yeah.
If the Knicks take this one home. So
This will be like Knicks in four, Knicks in five. Somebody will come out of nowhere. Maybe Adam Silver will just crown the Thunder champions again. He'll just use executive power or something, make both of us wrong. So, Chris, you could not get the sweep.
Hey, I'm glad to know it was competitive. Larry Lawrence Crescenzo, I'm a competitive guy, and it was a great fight between us. I think a great challenge for both of our organizations. But I'm glad you're not going home empty-handed in our game of the week metric battle. But yeah, I mean, you took home I think the most important one of all because an exact score prediction. I mean that's like throwing darts. So I think picking the winner is probably more important. And Larry, you're taking home the most important crown of them all. So respect to you. From competitor to competitor, it's all respect and congratulations.
Why, thank you, thank you. Same to you.
Appreciate
I,
that.
I think I think it's more like we won the championship. Like Chris got the championship, but I got like Finals MVP or something.
Yeah, it's
So
like a Steph Curry, Andre Iguodala situation. Like Andre Iguodala like totally didn't deserve it, and like definitely should have been Steph Curry. But like it's like we had to give Iggy something. So that was kind of like Larry winning
when
this
you
this
when
last
you
final.
when you like hold LeBron to like a 30-point triple double and you still get Finals MVP. I mean, that's all that. Yeah. So those were the results from our game of the week predictions review, and definitely good to crunch the numbers there.
Yeah,
We're
fun exercise for sure.
game of the week will be put to bed for the remainder of this season as the finals are possibly getting to the end. Well, that's all the time we have for today. If you haven't already, make sure to follow the podcast accounts, Chris and me, on social media. The three podcast accounts on Instagram, TikTok, and X or Twitter are under at Diehlman at half. My personal X and Instagram are at Larry Diehlman. Chris's personal X and Instagram are at Chris Dippy. All seven handles are in the description on Buzzsprout, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Remember, although you can find Dealman at Halftime on major podcasting platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and YouTube, the main podcast website is on Buzzsprout. The website URL is dealman at halftime.buzzsprout.com. Feel free to send a comment by using the Send Us a Text button located in each episode's bio. With the exception of Apple Podcasts, the text option is available on Buzzsprout and all the major platforms. Your comment could end up in the fan mail section of the Buzzsprout website. And don't forget to spread the word about Dealman at Halftime. Since the finals are nearing the end, or at least we're 2 games in, it depends on the result, but we are coming up to our last few episodes of the season. If the finals wrap up this week in either 4 or 5 games, next week's episode will be our season finale. But if the finals go to either 6 or 7 games, there will be 2 more episodes. So stay tuned for that. We'll see how the finals pan out in these next couple games. See you next time, fellow Hoops fans.